Okay. Hello everybody. Welcome to MasterMaths Secondary Maths live stream. I'm Coach Nawaz. I'll be your coach for today and we'll be going through quadratic functions today. So give us a like and share this video to all your friends, all your secondary school buddies. If they're having problems with quadratic functions, spend some time with us over the next 1 hour. And hopefully I would have taught you a thing or two of quadratic functions or about quadratic functions. Now, what exactly are quadratic functions? Now, maybe we'll just wait a few more seconds to get some answers from those joining us on TikTok and Instagram. What do you all know? What's the defining feature of quadratic functions? Maybe you guys can leave a comment if you know what the defining feature of quadratic functions are. Okay, so some of you all are saying that, you all are just saying hi. Hi, hello everybody. Coach Nawaz here from MasterMaths. Okay, yeah, maybe we'll give a few more seconds, let people join in. Guys, please hit the like button and share this video with your friends. Share it on your Instagram, share it on your TikTok. Oh, somebody says he's from P6, or is it a he or she? Well, if you're in P6, you're still welcome to join us and learn this. Obviously, this is something that is taught in secondary school. Okay, usually it's introduced in Sec 2. Okay, some schools, they might even introduce it a bit later in Sec 3. Okay, so what are quadratic functions? Quadratic functions are equations, algebraic equations, which are in this form. Okay, can you all see my screen there? Y equals to x squared plus 5x minus 6. So what is the defining feature of the quadratic function? The defining feature here is your square. The square that exists next to the x. Okay, so for example, if I give you y equals to x squared, this is a quadratic function. If I give you y equals to 2x squared plus 4x, this is also a quadratic function. Okay, if I give you y equals to 2x squared plus 5x plus 1000, okay, this is also a quadratic function. So what is not a quadratic function? Something like y equals to 5x. This is not a quadratic function. This is a linear function. So before we talk about quadratic functions, before we actually get into solving quadratic functions, you have to know what a quadratic function is. Okay, so the first question we have here. Okay, I hope you all can see this question here. Question number 1. Okay, if you're just joining us, we are doing quadratic functions today. What is the shape of this quadratic equation? So, as you all know, all these algebraic equations, we can actually plot them on a graph. Okay, a graph that looks something like this. You got your x-axis, you got your y-axis. Okay, so how does the quadratic function look like if it were to be in this form here? You have y equals to x squared plus 5x minus 6. We've got 4 options here. Sad face, smiling face, sour face, and smelly face. I'm not sure what a smelly face is. I didn't come up with this question. So those of you all who are watching this at home, maybe you can give me your answers. Type it out in the chat box. If you're joining us on Instagram, leave us a comment. If you're joining us on TikTok, leave us a comment. Is it A, B, C, or D? Let's see what people are answering here. Okay, so we've got some people say pear. B, okay. B, smiling face, okay. Okay, somebody says sour face. C, dumb donkey says C. Let me see here. Okay. Let me see if I can see your comments on Instagram, guys. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so some people have said B. Anybody else would like to add? What do you all think the answer for this would be? Okay, I zoom out again. What is the shape of this quadratic equation? Anybody else would like to add? What do you all think the answer for this would be? Okay, I zoom out again. Okay, so many of you all are saying B. Okay, B, smiling face. Okay, well done. Okay, the answer is indeed B. So why is it B? Okay, why is it B? Because this quadratic equation that you see here, the number in front of the x square, there's a number here, even though you cannot see it. That number is 1. And that 1 is a positive 1. So for a quadratic equation, let me write down a super pro MasterMaths tip here. For QE, okay, QE here being quadratic equation, the coefficient here meaning the number in front of the x square, the coefficient of x square, okay, the number in front of x square, the coefficient of x square determines, okay, so if you guys have a notebook handy, please write this down, determines the shape of the curve. Okay, so for a positive coefficient, so okay, maybe let me put a different color here. So if you have a positive coefficient, it's going to look like that, smiley face. Can you all see? Smile. If it is a negative, okay, what color should I use for negative? Maybe I use green. If it is a negative, then you're going to have a frown, an upside down smile. Okay? So sad face lah. So if negative, so for instance, example let's say y equals to negative x square plus 5x. This is going to be your sad face. But if you have y equals to 2x square plus 3x plus 7, this is going to be your smiley face. Okay, so it's very important that when you study quadratic functions, you don't just study how to solve. A lot of students, they just learn how to solve the quadratic function. How do I solve for x? You must also know how to sketch. And we will go into that a bit. We will go into that later lah. Okay guys, if you just join us, please do me a favor, please like the video. Please share the video on your socials, introduce MasterMaths to all your friends. We are doing a good job helping people get better grades in their secondary school maths. So, looking forward to seeing you all in the classroom. Okay, so my teacher say is sour face though. Dumb Donkey is saying that my teacher say is sour face. Okay, Dumb Donkey, or maybe I call you Didi. Sour face, I'm not too sure what your teacher is talking about. Maybe your teacher is talking about chemistry lah, maybe some other topic, some other subject besides maths. But for quadratic functions, when we're talking about quadratic curves, it's either a smiley face or a sour face. Or maybe your teacher, when she looks at this face, she calls this a sour face. Could that be it? Maybe the upside down smile is a sour face to your teacher. So maybe go back to school and ask your teacher lah, whether what is she referring to or he referring to. Okay. Any other comments besides this? Okay, so let's move on. Question number 2. Which of the following has all the correct methods to solve a quadratic equation? So again guys, when you have a quadratic equation, sometimes the question is asking you to solve the quadratic equation. Okay? Now, what do we mean when we want to solve the quadratic equation? That means we want to find the values of x. Solve here means find the values of x. Why I put values, not value? Because usually, not all the time, usually for a quadratic function, there will be 2 answers for your x. There will be 2 solutions for your x. There will be 2 solutions for your x. Okay? But not all the time. Sometimes there can be 1 solution, sometimes no solution. But most of the time, 2 solutions for your x. So when they want you to solve, that means they want you to find the values of x. Okay, let's look through A, B, C, D here. Factorization, expansion, completing the square. Okay, factorization is part of solving it, but it's not the method. Okay, that is the name of the method. Excuse me, that is the name of the method. You can use the method of factorization. Expansion, you might need to expand lah, but to call it one of the methods that you need to solve the quadratic equation, perhaps not quite correct. And then completing the square, yeah, definitely completing the square. I'm sure many of y'all, if y'all have gone through Sec 3, or maybe you're even in Sec 4, you're doing your O-levels this year, you have done completing the square before to solve a quadratic equation. Let's look at B. B says inequality. Wah, inequality, no lah. Quadratic equations, you can have quadratic inequalities, yes. But that's a slightly different topic. Not on what we're talking about today. Today we're talking about quadratic functions, quadratic equations. So inequality is out lah. So this one I'm going to cancel. Okay, see again, I see the word inequality. Again, I'm going to cancel. Special identities. Okay, special identities is a slightly different topic. Also within algebra, but not exactly what we need for solving the quadratic equation. Okay, let's look at D. D has factorization. Okay, factorization is correct. Quadratic formula, also correct. Completing the square. Graphical method. Graphical method means you draw the graph. You draw the graph for that particular equation, and then you read off the graph to get your solution. And then, of course, the method that everybody loves, which is the calculator method. So, in fact, there are all these fancy calculators that you can get these days. In fact, even online, you can go and get graphing calculators online. As in, like, there's a website that you can go to draw the graph for you. Okay? But, of course, when you're in the exam hall, it's a bit difficult for you to have access to a computer or a laptop for you to draw the graph using the graphing calculator or the graph calculator. Okay, let's see what comments we have here. Expansion doesn't find a value of x. Inequality is a range for x. It's not a value. Awesome. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Big Pringle sub. Expansion doesn't find a value of x. Inequality is a range for x. It's not a value. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so that's not exactly solving. We're looking for solutions here. Okay, we're looking for solutions to our x. Okay, so the answer here is D. D. So yes, sorry, I should have let you all answer the question. Anyway, the answer is D. Okay, so for those of you all who wanted to say D, congratulations, give yourself a pat on the back on this cold Wednesday night, wherever you're joining us from. Okay, so question number 2, which of the following has all the correct methods to solve a quadratic equation? The answer here is D. So A is out because expansion. We don't use expansion to solve. But we might need to use expansion as one of the steps involved. So I want to be clear on that. Even though the method that we are using is not called expansion, when you are trying to solve a quadratic equation, there will definitely be some expansion. Or I won't say there will definitely be. Occasionally, you will need to expand. You will need to do some form of expansion. Okay, awesome. Okay. So let's see what we've covered so far. So we've talked about the shape of quadratic equations. We've talked about the methods. So how many methods are there in total, guys? Can you all tell me how many methods do you all see here for part D? Give me some answers in your comments. How many methods do you all see? Guys, how many methods are there? Okay, 5 methods. Let me count for you all. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay? But, of course, in secondary school, the methods that you will be mostly using will be the first 4. The first 4. Okay, the first 4 methods. So you have to be familiar with these 4 methods. You have to be familiar with these 4 methods. Okay, let's move on to question number 3. So we've talked about the different methods. Now, one of the methods that you all can see is the quadratic formula. Okay, now the quadratic formula is something that every good student will have to memorize. Okay, you cannot tell me, never mind lah, it's in the formula list. Or you say, coach, never mind, no need to memorize. It's in the formula list. All this referring to the formula list in the exam and all that is going to cost you precious seconds. So guys, I want you all today, at the end of today, everybody must memorize the correct form for the quadratic formula. Don't get it wrong. Don't get it wrong. Okay, we have A, B, C, and D. Can you all see? I hope you all can see this. Okay, come, let's see who's got the right answer. Which of the following is the accurate form for the quadratic formula? A, B, C, or D? Come on. Let's see some answers. Okay, Dumb Donkey says A. Okay, I'll hold back my judgment right now. Okay, B. A lot of y'all are saying B, yeah? A lot of y'all are saying B. Okay. So, does majority win in this case? Okay, B. Any more answers? Anybody else besides B? No, so the answer is again B, yeah? B. What is the correct, accurate form for quadratic formula? Okay, let's memorize this together. Minus B plus minus square root B square minus 4AC over 2A. Now, you might be looking at all these letters A, B, and C, and you might be asking yourself, what in the world is A, B, and C? Huh? A, B, and C here referring to the coefficients or the numbers that you will find in your quadratic equation. So example guys. Let's say we have y equals to 5x square. This is a 5, huh? 5x square minus 4x plus 6. Example. Okay, 5x square minus 4x plus 6. What is my A for this case? Who can tell me what's my A for this case? Dumb Donkey, maybe you can tell me. What's my A for this case? Or anybody else can tell me what is A? What is the A for this particular quadratic equation? Y equals to 5x square minus 4x plus 6. Okay, very good. The A here is 5. Huh? Well done. The A here is 5. What is the B going to be? B. What is my B here? Is it going to be 4 or negative 4, guys? Is it going to be 4 or negative 4? Negative 4, don't forget the negative sign. Huh? And then finally, what is my C going to be, guys? What is my C going to be? Awesome. 6. Okay, so maybe I'll use a highlighter to show this. Okay, so you can see this is your A. This is your A. This is your B. And this is going to be your C. Okay, so don't mix it up. Okay, let me change the format a bit. Let me show you this. What if I have the quadratic equation like this? Y equals to 7 minus 3x square plus 8x. Okay guys, now can you all tell me what is my A, B and my C going to be? What's my A going to be in this case? 7. Somebody said 7. Is my A going to be 7 now? My A will always be the number in front of the x square, guys. The A is always the number in front of the x square. So I will put it there. Number in front of x square. Okay, so in this case it will be negative 3. Okay, what is my B going to be? B is the number in front of x. So what is that going to be? 8. Fantastic. Good job. Auril. Ziki boy also says 8. Oh, you all have very creative names. Thank you for liking my live. Please share this with as many friends as you can. Okay, C. What is C going to be? Anybody on Instagram can tell me what is my C going to be? Okay, so we're sharing this knowledge with you guys on Instagram, on TikTok, and hopefully at the end of this 1 hour session, you would have learned a bit about quadratic equations. Okay, what is my C going to be, guys? C is going to be 7. Awesome. So you guys are paying attention. Fantastic. So if I want to solve my quadratic equation now, what's going to happen here is I'm going to have to substitute my A, B, and C into this formula over here. Let me color it for you. Color it hot pink for you. So you all can sear this into your brain. Minus B plus minus square root B square minus 4AC over 2A. over 2a. Okay? Can everybody see that? Okay? So, shall we try and solve one of these equations using the quadratic formula? Let's see. Okay, the next one is completing the square. Okay, let's use the quadratic formula first. Or is there a quadratic formula question at the end of the day? Okay, doesn't seem to be any questions on quadratic formula apart from this one. So, okay, let's try and solve, guys, using the quadratic formula. I'm excited to try this out. Maybe you all also can try this with me. Okay, so I'm going to use this one here. Okay, y equals to 7 minus 3x squared plus 8x. So we know that our a is negative 3, our b is 8, and our c is 7. Okay, so let's use the formula that we have learned. So the formula is x equals minus b plus minus square root b square minus 4ac over 2a. Okay, how is this going to look like? Okay, so minus b, that's going to be minus 8. Excuse me, sorry. Just had my dinner just now. Plus minus, okay. This one a bit tricky. A lot of students falter at this point here. Okay, b square. So what's b square going to be? B square is going to be 64 because 8 times 8 will give me 64. Minus 4 bracket negative 3 c 7 over 2 bracket negative 3. So very important. If your a, b or c there's a negative in it, you have to put in the negative. You have to put in the negative sign. Don't forget the negative sign. Okay, so let's figure this out. I think some of you all can use calculator and figure out what's inside the square root. I will try to use mental sums because I don't know where's my calculator also actually. I forgot my calculator. Okay, let's see here. 64. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 7 is 10 times 7, 70. 12 times 2, 24. So 70 plus 24, 94. 12 times 7. Why does 12 times 7? No, wait, hold on. wait. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times... okay, my buddy has just shared with me the calculator. Okay. I'm doing this with a calculator now. Sorry. 84. Alamak. Okay. So plus 84. Over negative 6. Okay, so what is 64 plus 84? This one I can do mentally. 60 plus 80, 140. 4 plus 4, 8, 148. So negative 8. Wow, we're going into the next page already. 148 over negative 6. Did everybody get something like this? How? Are you all lost yet? Or you all can understand what I'm saying here? Guys, how? Did everybody get this? Negative 8 plus minus square root 148 over negative 6. Yes? Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's move on. So now, what are our two values of x? Sorry, excuse me. What are our two values of x going to be? Okay, we're going to have minus 8 plus square root 148 over negative 6. Or, we're going to have... Wait, hold on. I think this is silly. Let me open up a new page. Okay, so minus 8 plus minus square root 148 over negative 6. Now, what are our two values of x going to be? It's going to be minus 8 plus square root 148 over negative 6. Or it is going to be negative 8 minus square root 148 over negative 6. Okay, so usually when you use quadratic formula, usually you will not get a nice round whole number. You will not get an integer. You will not get a whole number. You will get a number with decimals in it. You will get a number with decimals in it. So let's see here. Square root 148. Can anybody tell me what square root 148 is? Okay, what do you all get? Hey, where are all the comments? Guys, don't get lost. Come on. Okay, so minus 8 plus, I have here 12.165 over negative 6. Or negative 8 minus 12.165 over negative 6. Okay, so what answer will I get here? Okay, I will get minus 0.694. Or I will get minus 8. Hold on. 3.36. 3.36. Okay, guys. So again, let's recap. Let's recap what we have done here. Okay, so firstly, we ask the question, which of the following is the accurate form for the quadratic formula? So first step, you must at least know which one is the quadratic form lah. The quadratic form here is minus b plus minus square root b square minus 4ac over 2a. You can see amongst these four options, all of them look somewhat similar. So if you don't memorize, you might end up using A or C or D, when the correct answer here is option B. Option B. Minus b plus minus square root b square minus 4ac over 2a. Just say it like 30 times to yourself lah. Then when you sleep also, you will talk in your sleep, and then you will also say minus b plus minus square root b square minus 4ac over 2a. So must memorize, guys, must memorize this one. Okay, then we have our quadratic equation here. This is our quadratic equation. Again, how do we know that this is a quadratic equation, guys? Because there's that square over there. There's that square over there. But remember, when we are trying to determine A, B, and C, it's not dependent on how you place the terms. Okay? Because I can place the terms like this, I can also place the terms like this, guys. Remember, in algebra, I can also do this. So, these two, they are the same actually. Same but different. They are the same. They are the same. So, it's just a case of moving the terms around. It's just a case of moving the terms around. So, my A here will be negative 3. My B here will be 8. And my C here will be 7. Okay? So, using the quadratic formula that we have talked about in the question number 3, sorry. Now, we are going to substitute in our A, our B, and our C. Okay? So, let's see if I have substituted it correctly. So, minus B becomes minus 8, plus minus square root B square becomes 64, minus 4A. Very important, guys. Very important. Your A has to have that negative 3. Don't forget the negative 3. And then your C will be 7. Over 2A. 2A here will be negative 6 lah, because 2 times negative 3 will give me negative 6. So when you work it out, you will finally get this. But that's not the end of the story. This will not give you your marks. You have to move a few more steps until you get to the finishing line. So minus 8 plus minus square root 148 over negative 6. What will this give me? You see, what does this plus minus mean? Let me highlight this. Guys, what is this plus minus here? Plus minus here means that it can be minus 8 plus square root 148. It can also be minus 8 or negative 8 minus square root 148. So remember just now I spoke to you all about how quadratic equations, usually when you solve, most of the time you will get two solutions. You get two solutions. So these are the two solutions here. So you will have minus 8 with the plus, and then you will have minus 8 with the minus. See or not? Can see or not? Okay, let me highlight in case those of you cannot see. There's a plus here, there's a minus here. But everything else is the same. Everything else is the same. Okay, so key into your calculator And then after a few tries, this should be your final answers. Did you all get this? Guys, how? Managed to get the answer or not? Minus 0.694 or 3.36. Okay, let me erase this. This one no need to have already, this part here. Okay. Wow. Live stream is quite exciting. Okay. Now we're talking about completing the square. Completing the square. So remember, there are 5 methods to solving a quadratic equation or quadratic function. The 4 methods that you all absolutely have to know: quadratic formula, factorization, completing the square, and graphical method. Okay? If you can see my fingers, it's because, I'm stationed a certain way that I'm actually here. Can you see? I'm here. Okay. How to do by completing the square method? Okay, maybe before I go into this, I give you all a chance to practice on your own first. So that I can take a breather. Complete the square for the following: x squared minus 4x plus 1. Okay, how would you all do completing the square? This one they're not asking you to solve. This one they're asking you to complete the square. But as I mentioned just now, completing the square will be one of the methods for solving a quadratic equation. Sometimes in the exam, they will give you a question: solve this quadratic equation by completing the square. So they tell you straight away what method they want you to use. Or sometimes what they do is, they have 2 parts in the question. So the first part is, you have to complete the square. The second part is, you have to solve after you have completed the square. Let's see. Okay, no, question 5 is not asking you to solve from this one. But I can show you all how to solve later. Okay, once we have completed the square. So maybe I give you all about 2 minutes now. Okay, you all go and try and complete the square. Okay, go and try and complete the square. Guys, if you all are enjoying this video, please give me a like and then share this video. Okay. How do we go on to do this question? Okay, question number 4. Complete the square for the following: x squared minus 4x plus 1. Okay, guys. This is my method lah. Maybe you might have been taught a different method but this is my method that I'll be sharing with you all. And I think this method, it works for me lah. It helps me because I can understand this method very well, and I do not need to memorize any formula for me to use this method. Okay, because I can understand the method that I'm using. Okay, what is the method here? Okay, step 1 guys. Step 1. Step 1 is ignore the constant term. I know a bit weird. How come first thing I tell you all to do is to ignore the constant term? Because when you focus on the constant term, sometimes you end up making a mistake lah. Okay, so what is the constant term here? The constant term here is your 1. So we're going to ignore this constant term. We cannot just throw it away. We cannot just throw it away. We have to have it there. But we are not going to write it next to the 4x. Okay, we're not going to write it next to the 4x. So what goes next to the 4x, guys? You have to divide the number next to x by 2. Divide the number by 2 and square it. Okay, so first step, ignore the constant term. Second step, divide the number next to x by 2, and then you have to square it. So, guys, negative 4, I divide by 2, I get negative 2. Negative 4, I divide by 2, I get negative 2. Then, negative 2 now I need to square. I need to square negative 2. What happens when I square negative 2? Who can tell me? What do you get when you square negative 2? Anybody? Anybody here would like to tell me? What happens when you square the negative 2? Okay. We'll get a 4. Fantastic. Okay, I got an answer there. 4. Okay, somebody else just mentioned 4. Okay, awesome. So you guys know what I'm doing here. So, I get 4. Now, what do I do with the 4? I have to add it. I have to add the 4. Okay? But just as I add the 4, I have to minus away the 4. Okay? So, in case you all are blur, okay, here, this is what I'm doing here. I'm solving the question here. Okay, maybe I move the steps to one side so that don't confuse you all. Okay, this is step number 1. Ignore the constant term. Okay, then this one is step number 2. Divide the number next to the x by 2 and square it. Okay, so this is us trying to solve this question here. Okay, so let me draw some arrows so you all can see what I'm doing here. So this one goes here. This x square is from this x square here is from this x square here. Okay, this negative 4x is from this negative 4x here. Okay, so another arrow to point you all where we're getting the negative 4x from. Okay, this portion here, let me box it up for you. This portion here, plus 4 minus 4, we have to add this in. Okay, so I will write, we add this in. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Because this is what you have to do in completing the square. You have to put in this plus 4 and then minus 4. If you can put in the plus 4 and the minus 4, or the plus whatever and the minus whatever, depending on what your term in front of the x is, depending on what the term in front of your x is, you put in your plus 4 or your plus 8 or your plus whatever, okay, you have won half the battle. Okay, completing the square is actually very simple, guys. Very, very simple. Okay, now we have to add in the plus 1 again. Where did this plus 1 come from? This plus 1 is the plus 1 that we ignored just now. Okay, maybe I don't draw the arrow like that. A bit confusing, you all cannot see. Okay, where can I put the arrow in? Okay, like this. Okay, x square minus 4x plus 4 minus 4 plus 1. So step number 1, ignore the constant term. What is the constant term here? The plus 1. Okay, depending on your question lah. Some other questions, the constant term might be plus 5. Some other questions, the constant term might be minus 10. Okay, so you see what the constant term is, you ignore. You divide the number next to x by 2 and then you square it. So the number next to x here is negative 4. So negative 4 divided by 2, I get negative 2. Negative 2 I square, I get 4. Okay, so step number 3. Step number 3, add this squared number and subtract it. Okay, add this squared number and subtract it, which is what you all see in the red box over here. This is what I'm doing here. I plus 4, I minus 4. Okay. And then finally, what do I do next? Okay. You see, again, I'm using hot pink here. I have these three terms over here. So I will write down, using the first three terms, convert, or maybe, no, this is not the right way to say it. Come, let me say it again. Convert the first three terms to the squared form, or to the completed square form. Convert first three terms to the completed square form. Okay, so that's the step number 4. So step number 4, what you see here, this is going to be x minus 2 bracket square. So what you see in these three terms here, I can convert it into this. X minus 2 bracket square. But don't forget, we still got our negative 4 and our plus 1 here. So negative 4 and plus 1 will give me negative 3. And this is how you do it. Okay? This is how you do it. Any questions from anybody online? Anything you're not sure about? X square minus 4x plus 2 to the power of 2. More clear, I think. Maybe, yeah. Okay, good point, good point, mate. Okay, I will rewrite this thing lah. Okay, so you have x square minus 4x plus 1. So we can also rewrite it in this format. X square minus 4x plus 2 square minus 2 square plus 1. But I don't quite like it like this, actually. I don't know lah, to each his own. I mean, I'm not forcing you all to follow my method, but I still prefer my steps here lah. When I do completing the square, I prefer to use this method here. And this method actually tallies or complements what you would have already learned in algebraic identities. Okay, what are algebraic identities, guys? Maybe just I deviate a bit. Let me introduce something to you all. You all know that you all are supposed to remember this, right? Okay, so I don't share all the algebraic identities with you all but what you all should know is a plus b bracket square equals to a square plus 2ab plus b square. And a minus b bracket square equals to a square minus 2ab plus b square. So this one I can call it number 1, this one I can call it number 2. So in this case here, you see this thing over here that I've highlighted in pink is the same as this thing over here. A square minus 2ab plus b square. And this thing that I'm highlighting in blue is the same thing as what you see over here. So, part of being a good student, guys, is you must memorize certain things. Like just now I told you all to memorize the quadratic formula. One more thing that I always tell all my students to memorize, especially those who are going on to do O-levels, you have to memorize this. A plus b bracket square equals to a square plus 2ab plus b square. A minus b bracket square equals to a square minus 2ab plus b square. Okay? So, why do we memorize this? So that when you want to do completing the square, you see, what is the square here? The square here is your x minus 2 bracket square. This thing here. This is your square. Okay? But to get this, we need to insert something into x square minus 4x. We need to add the third term. Okay? We have the a square term, we have the 2ab term. So easy as subnetting. Okay, sorry, I'm getting distracted by the comments. Okay, so we have x square minus 4x, we have a square, we have minus 2ab. Now we want to add in the b square. So what is the b square? The b square is again, in this case is 4 lah, plus 4, which when you put in the b square, therefore what you see highlighted in pink over here goes into that bracket there. So minus 4 plus 1. At the tail end, you see these two terms here, right? Minus 4 plus 1. This becomes my minus 3. Okay, guys? I hope I'm not losing you all. Okay. These kind of things, of course, to be very honest, requires a bit of practice. It cannot be a case where you look at me, do it one time, and then after that you become an expert. Okay? You all need to open up your assessment books or your 10-year series, and then practice your completing the square questions. Okay? But the gist of it is these 4 steps that I have here. Okay? Okay. We're running out of time, so let's move on to question 5, and then we have another question before we can wrap things up. Complete the square for the following. X square plus x. How do we do this? Then you might be copying the steps that you saw me do in the previous question. Then you might be telling yourself, alamak, Coach Nawaz, he cheated us. He said to ignore the constant term. But there's no constant term over here. So don't be afraid. Sometimes the quadratic function that they give you, it doesn't have a constant term. Okay? It doesn't have a constant term. Let's compare. Let's compare and contrast. Okay, I copy this. Okay, bring it down here. Alamak. Sorry. Paste image. Okay. Okay, guys. Can see the difference? I think it's quite obvious. The first one is x squared plus x. The second one is x squared minus 4x plus 1. So obviously, question 5 here, we do not have that constant term. So when we don't have the constant term, is there anything to ignore? Obviously, there's nothing to ignore already. But if there is a constant term, then we ignore the constant term. Remember what I said, we ignore the constant term, the plus 1. We go straight into the number in front of the x, the minus 4. We divide by 2, we square. And then we add, we subtract that. We add and then we subtract that, which is what we did here, plus 4 minus 4. We add this in, very important. So for this question here, nothing to ignore. Okay, let me erase this part here so that nobody gets confused. Hey, why doesn't this remove? Okay, cut. Okay, so we have x squared plus x. X squared plus x. Okay, can I ask everybody here? What is the coefficient of my x here? What is the coefficient of my x? Who can tell me? Can you just leave it there, please? Thanks. Sorry, my pizza is here. This episode is not sponsored by Domino's Pizza or Pizza Hut, by the way. I had to pay for the pizza myself. Okay, good. So some of you all are giving me the answers to the coefficient for x. So the coefficient for x is 1. The coefficient for x is 1. So what must I do with the 1? I must divide by 2 and then I must square it. Okay? So if I take 1, divide by 2, I get half. Guys, what happens when I square my half, guys? What happens when I square my half? What do I get when I square half? Anybody can tell me? 1/4. Awesome. I get 1/4. I get 1/4. So for this particular quadratic function, we must take x squared plus x plus 1/4 minus 1/4. Okay? Plus 1/4 and then minus 1/4. Actually, why do we do this? Why do we add something and then we subtract it straight away? We do that because you cannot change the value of that function. That expression has to remain the same. You cannot suka-suka, I just want to add a 1/4 like that. Cannot. Maths is not like that. Maths, you cannot just happily add a number here. You can only add a number there, like, when you all do your equations. Example, okay, just sidetrack a bit. Okay, when this is A and then this one is 5. I can put something like A plus 1 equals to 6. A plus 5, A equals to 5 can be A plus 1 equals to 6. Example, what did I do here? I added a 1 on one side, on the left hand side. I added a 1 on the right hand side. Okay, so same goes here. This one, we are dealing with this chain of terms. X squared plus x are two terms inside this expression. We cannot happily just change the value. So you want to add 1/4? Can. You must subtract the same 1/4. Okay? But why did we add the 1/4 in the first place? That's why I say this one all must be understanding. I don't want you all to blindly memorize the formula that your teachers feed you. And then, okay, never mind, I just use the formula. Cannot lah. You want to be a good student, you must at least have some form of understanding. So, why did we add the 1/4 here? We added the 1/4 here because we want to complete the square. And we can only complete the square when we have these three terms over here. Okay, x squared plus x plus 1/4. So, this will give me, again, let me put the braces here. This will give me x plus half bracket square minus 1/4. Can you all see that? So, it would be good if you all can see the difference between this one, question number 5, and question number 4. So you see in question number 4, these three guys, x squared plus 4x plus 4, see x squared minus 4x plus 4, these three guys, they become this one here. Okay? Then the minus 4 and the plus 1 here become minus 3. Minus 4 plus 1 here become minus 3. But here, x squared plus x plus 1/4 becomes x plus half square. Can see, I hope this is clear, so you all can see this. This guy become this guy. Plus, with the square lah. Don't forget the square. The square very important. Must have the square there. The small number 2 at the top there. Okay? So this is how you complete the square. Okay? Now, I know some of you all might be asking, okay, so how do we solve the quadratic function by completing the square? Okay, so this is how it's done. So let's say now I have y equals to x squared plus x. Then, when y equals to 0. So always remember when we want to solve a quadratic function. Okay, I don't really have the time to go through this with you all now, but just the gist of it is the y needs to be 0 lah. The y needs to be 0. Maybe if I have another session with you all on quadratic functions, I can explain why the y needs to be 0. So for us to solve the quadratic function, the y needs to be 0. So that will mean that x squared plus x is equals to 0. Now, if we have already completed the square, we know that this will give me x plus half bracket square minus 1/4 equals to 0. So what happens here? Who can tell me? What do we do with the minus 1/4? Someone is asking, is this sec 3? Yes, I believe you would learn this in sec 3. Okay, someone is asking, may I know how you get half? Very good question. Very good question. How do we get the half? Just now I put 1/4. How come the 1/4 suddenly become half? Okay, because remember, if you have memorized your a square plus 2ab plus b square, this will be, hold on, let me use a different color. This will be my, so-called my a square lah. This is my 2ab. And this is my b square. Okay? A square, 2ab, b square. Why? Okay, what am I talking about here? I'm talking about this thing that I was talking about just now. Can see or not? This one. a square plus 2ab plus b square. So a square plus 2ab plus b square, your b square is your 1/4. Your 2ab is your x and your a square is your x square. Which means that if my b square is going to be 1/4, my b is going to be half. So when I put a plus b bracket square, this is going to be x plus half bracket square. Okay? So whoever was asking just now about why is there a half there? I hope this answers your question. So, okay. Guys, we're at the final lap here. X plus half bracket square minus 1/4 equals to 0. Who can tell me what do we do here? What do we do here? What are we going to do with this equation? How are we going to solve? We have completed the square. But how do we solve? Add a quarter both sides. Fantastic. So, we are going to add 1/4 on the left-hand side. We're going to add 1/4 on the right-hand side. And then we're going to square root both sides. Thank you. Thank you to 9. 9 for answering that question. Okay, so x plus half square equals to 1/4. We add 1/4 on both sides. When we add 1/4 on both sides, the 0 becomes 1/4. The left-hand side becomes x plus half square. Now we square root both sides. So when we square root, always remember, when we square root a number in an algebraic equation like this, we have to put plus minus. So plus minus 1/4. So this will be x plus half equals to plus minus half. Because when you square root 1/4, you get half. And then finally, can we solve for x? Yes, we can. So x becomes half minus half equals to 0. Or x equals to negative half minus half equals to negative 1/4. So this will be your two answers for x. 0 and negative 1/4. Okay? Wow, very humid. Maybe next time I have to switch on the aircon when I'm doing this. Okay. Last question for today. Solve the following. So this is where there needs to be some expansion. Minus 1/4 pula. Alamak. Sorry. See, I'm getting tired already. Guys, thank you to 9. Minus half, this will be minus 1. Sorry. My bad. Minus half will give me minus 1, negative 1. Minus half will give me negative 1. Thank you to our mystery caller, Mr. 9, who has correctly identified my mistake. Okay, now let's move on to the last question. So here we need to expand the left-hand side. We expand the left-hand side, we get 5y minus 3y square equals to minus 2. How do we do this? We use what is known as the rainbow method. So y times 5 will give me 5y. Y times negative 3y will give me negative 3y square. Okay, so now we have negative 3y square plus 5y. Let's bring the minus 2 over. Or the correct way to say that is we add 2 to both sides. So when we add 2 to both sides, this is what we end up with. Okay, so now I'm going to try and solve. Maybe I can use factorization. Let's see if factorization works. Because remember, one of the methods of solving quadratic functions, factorization. Guys, but when I want to factorize, I don't like this to be negative. So can you all tell me what I should do to get rid of the negative sign? I don't like to have negative 3. How? Swap all the signs. Okay, yes, that's one of the things we can do. We can swap all the signs. Any other answers besides that? Okay, so essentially what we can do here is we can multiply the left hand side and the right hand side with negative 1. So when we multiply left hand side, right hand side with negative 1, sorry, give me a... we multiply left hand side, right hand side, negative 1, we get 3y square minus 5y minus 2 equals to 0. Okay, 3y square minus 5y minus 2 equals to 0. Now I can factorize. I like to factorize it like this. So, how do we factorize? Okay, so in secondary 2, I believe, some of y'all would have been taught this thing called the cross method. Cross factorization method. I don't know, okay, there's a name for it lah. There's a name for it. So, we have a multiplication frame here. What do? We take the first term and the last term. First term, last term. So we have 3y and y. We have 2 and 1 over here. What are we doing here? We are trying to find the factors of the first term and the last term. Okay, those of you all who are having some issues with factorization of quadratic function, I would suggest minus 3 plus minus, oh my goodness. Okay, never mind. Hold on, let me not get distracted by the comments again. Okay, so basically here what we're doing is we are trying to factorize the quadratic function here. Okay, and the first step is to find the factors of 3y square, and negative 2. Okay, so the factors of 3y square very simple lah. 3y and y. Okay, 3y and y will give me 3y square. 2 and 1 will also give me 2. But bear in mind, this is negative 2. This is not positive 2. This is negative 2. So when it's a negative 2, guys, either the 2 here or the 1 here has to be a negative. The 2 or the 1 has to be a negative. 1 has to be a negative, 1 has to be a positive. But before we put negative on the 2 or negative on the 1, let's hold our horses a bit. We do the multiplication first. Okay, so the multiplication is like this. The term below or the factor below will multiply with the factor on top. So y times 2 will give me 2y. And 3y and 1 will give me 3y. Okay. Is there any way we can get 5y with this? Well, here, the 5y is a negative 5y. The 5y is a negative 5y. And remember, the 2 has to be a negative 2. So I don't think we should put the 2 on top and the 1 below. Let's swap it around. Let's swap it around. Let's put the 1 on top and the 2 below. I think this will be better. Okay, so this will give me 6y here and then y on top. And then again, for it to be negative 5y, that means this has to be negative 6y. And this has to be y on top. So this will give me negative 5y. So if this is going to be negative 6y, this has to be negative 2. Okay? Cantik. So now you know what to do. So we have 3y plus 1, y minus 2. I always tell my students, if you're not confident in factorizing, after you factorize already, you go and expand again. You go and expand so that you see whether you get back your original answer. So let's check. 3y and y, do I get 3y square? I do. 3y minus 2, I get minus 6y. 1 times y, minus 6y plus y, minus 5y, solid. Then the 1 and the minus 2, I will get minus 2. So, my factorization is sound. My factorization is good. Now, after you have factorized, how do we go on to solve this quadratic function? This is where you need to understand that when you have something multiply something equals to 0, guys. Something multiply something equals to 0. That means this something here, 3y plus 1 is equals to 0. Or your y minus 2 is equals to 0. Okay? So 3y will be negative 1. Y equals to 2. Y here will be negative 1, 1/3. So these are our answers here. So this is how we have solved this particular question. So go back. Can we use quadratic formula also? Can. If you want to use quadratic formula, by all means. Okay? Doesn't mean you only need to use factorization. You can use quadratic formula also. So again, to recap, there are 4 methods to solving the quadratic functions. Quadratic formula, factorization, completing the square, and the graphical method. But of course, the methods that we usually would use, factorization, quadratic formula. Sometimes we use completing the square, if the question tells us to solve by completing the square. So, okay, that's about all the time we have for you today. Okay, I'm sorry I overshot a bit. 9:07 now the time. By right, this live stream should have ended at 9 o'clock. So I hope that this session has been useful to those of you all tuning in. Okay, we have managed to cover a couple of questions here. Okay, we've given you all a bit of an introduction to quadratic equations, quadratic functions, and hopefully from this session, okay, it would have taught you a thing or two about quadratic functions. When you go to school tomorrow, you know, when you are going to sit for your WA1 or your CA1 around the corner, hopefully when you come across questions with quadratic functions in them, you would be a bit more confident to solve. Always remember, you have to practice, you have to try. Even if you don't get it the first time, it's okay. Try and try again. Okay, so this has been Coach Nawaz. Thank you so much for paying attention to me for the last 1 hour. That's all. My pizza is here, so I'm going to end the live stream here. I'm going to go makan. And then tonight when I sleep, I'm going to dream of quadratic functions. So see you all again next week. Same time, same place. Thank you guys.